Hey y'all, welcome to the YAML Basics on Scalars video. Today we are going to be talking all about YAML. Mark YAML, Mary had a little YAML. That one's a little bit of a stretch. But what we're going to do really is talk about ways to have multi-line values in YAML, what they mean, when to use them. And what these are, they're called scalars. Why I am doing this. So I've had some times where I am going through YAML files myself, customizing Helm charts typically is a good instance. And I come across little nuances and I have to really stop and think what's happening, just figure out exactly what's going on. So they come up, some more than others, but it's really good to know all of these little things and these tips for multi-line YAML scalars and understand the structure and be able to come back to it. So these are common enough that I'd say a good understanding and having something written up that you can come back to would definitely help. So we are going to start with the pipe character. This is the character in question that is called the pipe character. I use it quite a bit. What this means is that there is a multi-line scalar coming. Specifically, it means that any following indented lines are to be preserved as is, including new lines. So pulling up an example, using Princess Bride as the example here, you can see farm boy fill these with water, and then as you wish. Those are two different lines. This is going to be really useful for a command after command. So think about like bringing a bash script over, for instance, or just a few things that you want to run sequentially. I'm going to pull up an example, something I have used in the past and we used in a previous video. So the Docker login process, this is something that I definitely would run in practice. So there are three different commands here. So once you finish that, it runs to the next one. So there's the new line preserved. Now these new lines preserved, what if you don't need to do that? So on to folded scalars. The folded scalar is also multi-line, but each new line is actually not maintained. It just inserts a space where the new line is. So you can see here, this is all one quote. They don't need to have new lines. Instead, each new line here would just be a space. So I'd actually touch this up. So that's what would be inserted. Makes things easier, more readable. I personally don't end up using these as much in my day-to-day, but it's really useful for convenience sake. So on to Chomp modifiers. So if you see I have a minus, I have a nothing. I'm going to pull up a couple of these. And keep. And these could be done with either the folded or the pipe. So noting that. The default action for YAML is something called clipping. And this is used if there's no modifier. So this is the default. It's going to take on the default action. This is the stripping and this is the keeping. For clip, there is a single new line at the end. We'll show you what that looks like. With a strip, you're going to get rid of all the extra characters. So something where it needs to be very exact, you don't want to have any extra spaces, it would probably error something out. And with keep, you preserve it all. So you're deliberately, want to include some of those pieces. So we see some examples, again, with piping or folded scalars, you can do it. And we're going to actually test this demo. So we're at old trusty YAML parser at the JSONformatter.org site. And we're going to test out that example and see what happens with all six. I'm going to copy and paste it here. We're going to parse it. And we'll run through it. So the first three are piped. You can see that it's a demo 2 and then a new line test. Clipping, demo 2, new line test, and then new line. So that's a clip default. And then keep a demo 2, new line test, and then a bunch of new lines. And then the strip folded. So let's talk about the folded demos here. Really, this just comes out as a string. So it's a pretty simple string. This is a string with a new line, with a space and then a new line. And then this doesn't actually have, that's the issue there. And there you go. So it preserves that new line there that I hadn't had at the end. And that's it. I really hope this was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions, comments in the comments section, or anything you'd like to see next.